welcome everyone. I'm Rosemary Piccarelli. I joined AFT Connecticut this past summer as the new communications associate. Usually our professional development coordinator, Jennifer Benevento, hosts these PD webinars, but I'm filling in for her while she's on maternity leave. I also want you all to know that this webinar is being recorded, as Zoom probably informed you when you logged on. Our hope is that we can email a link to the recording to all the registered people in the upcoming weeks, so you will have this for future reference. I'm going to post a link in the chat box now, and if you don't have access to the chat box, I can email you this link. This link, if you would all please click on that when the webinar is over, we would greatly appreciate it. It's how we will learn what our members are looking for in a professional development opportunities in the future. And I'll remind you again about the link at the end. All right, so now I'd like to welcome Daniel Blanchard and Daniel Flores, who will be presenting today's webinar, Para and Teacher Collaboration. Dan Blanchard is a member of our New Britain Federation of Teachers, Local 871, as is Dan Flores, who was also the president of the New Britain Federation of Paraprofessionals, Local 2407, for numerous years prior to becoming a teacher. Before I give the floor over, well, I already did the screenshot, so I'm ahead of myself. So Dan, you can take it away.
All right, cool. Thanks, Rosemary. We really appreciate you being here tonight and making this happen, and we appreciate everybody in the audience that's here. My name is Dan Blanchard, as you were just told. I am a New Britain school teacher. Been here for 25 years now. Woo! I do some things on the side, like take care of my 5 kids and write some books. I'm a published author, professional speaker, and just an all-around busy guy with being a union officer and all that stuff. I got my buddy Dan Flores here. Dan, I'll tell you what a
resume on this guy, huh? Hi guys, my name is Dan Flores. I was also a former parent, just like all my parents who are here. And they're right, Mrs. Roman. I used to be the para president for Local 2407. I was also a former 2-time para of the year for my district. And now for the last 3 years, Dan, I also been working as a sped teacher for our school district. And Dan, one of the things that I found so interesting from like both sides of the aisle who work as a teacher now work as a para is that it's complicated.
Yeah, it sure is complicated, but it's definitely doable.
It is doable,
especially when we work together and we communicate well. It's very doable. And I find the funny thing is when we first started this a couple of years ago, I was a teacher, you were the para, and that's how we came out. We just got along. We just gelled. I think maybe we communicated clearly. We kind of liked each other, and we just got along. We got along well. We came up with this whole concept of like, why can't paras and teachers work well together? And we were thinking, well, they can. I mean, we do well. So why can't they? Now, Dan became a teacher, took away from that dynamic, but the thing is, it's still there. We're still educators. Dan's still an educator, whether he's a para or a teacher, still an educator. So yeah, it's complicated. Sometimes it can be tough, to work with another adult, but it's very doable. All right.
Yep. And we're gonna find out too is that why is it complicated? Why is there a problem? Is there a problem in your school size? And the best way that how can we best give you strategies so that way that we can minimize the conflict and expedite more when it comes to the team building there.
So Rosemary, if you could bring us to that second. Thanks. So as you can see on this one, our second slide, and in today's most effective schools, educational personnel operate as a team. Sort of like what Dan and I was just saying. There are things like relationships. We're like friends. So there's good communication, right? There's trust, there's respect. You gotta have all those things for everybody to win. Wouldn't you agree, Dan?
I would agree too. And also then one more important thing too is about recognition. I believe in our schools, there's not enough recognition going on from both sides of the aisle, right? Oftentimes teachers, they try to give good recognition to those that they feel that they work with, but not enough. And then vice versa. Sometimes the paras don't give enough recognition to the teachers because they feel that they're being overworked, and then therefore, why should I give that recognition to my teacher as well? And that can vary based on the various assignments or based on the work that they have,
Yeah.
And these are the reason why that we actually highlighted it in red, because these are things that are very most effective,
Absolutely.
But I don't know about you, but I would like to know what does the audience think about this?
Dan, you just read my mind. I was thinking the same thing.
No, did I?
Like, what is the audience thinking? Like, you took the words out of my mouth.
Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. So audience, we're wondering where you're at with this. You know, in the teams in your room or in your school, are you seeing some of these things? Are you seeing what looks like multiple adults in a classroom that are having, like, let's say, good relationships and that communicate well and trust and respect each other? Is that what you're seeing in your classrooms, or
Is it
maybe
lacking?
something else? What do you think? Any volunteers? Anybody want to speak up on that? You seeing these things?
Carol Langlace, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, says that we have an awesome team at Vance. And Linda says this year is going well.
That's beautiful. So we do have, and it does exist, obviously, but it doesn't always happen on its own. Sometimes it falls into place, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why we're giving this workshop, and we're also even writing a book on this,
Yes, we are.
Dan, on having like the parent and the teacher work more effectively, better together, collaborate together, all that sorts of stuff. It doesn't always just fall into place. Sometimes it helps to have a few tips along the way.
Absolutely.
And
too.
if I could say something, Dan?
By all
Please do.
means.
Hi, I'm Portia Bias. I'm from West Haven. And I would just like to say, I've been in the school system for 14 years. And I've learned that, of course, you know, personalities, everyone's personality is different. And I think it takes a little while, maybe for me, if you work with the teacher over a year or 6 months, you don't, especially if you don't know the person or you don't know the other parents in the room, it takes a little while before you build a relationship. And then after, you know, I don't know what comes first, the relationship, and I don't mean friends, but work relationship, and then the relationship with the students. It all has to come together, but I don't really know what would come first.
Well, that's good, because I mean, it's dynamic and I think it's always moving. So I don't think there is an exact order. I think the order can change depending on the dynamics of the situation of the classroom that you're in. So I don't know if there is, I don't think there is one best way to do it, but I think that, you know, if you have some of these things that we're going to talk about today and you're like cognizant about them and trying, and the other adult is, you know, at least partially trying, over time, like you said, maybe it takes a year. Over time, a lot of these things can fall in place without us even thinking about it. But if we're cognizant of these things and maybe try to do some of these things, you know, on purpose, maybe we don't have to wait a year. Maybe it's Christmas. You know what I'm saying?
Also, and also to further I'll add to that, Dan, as well, is that it actually makes sense why it would take a minimum of a year or more so, right? Because there's numerous factors in play, right? It could be that you probably have the brand new teachers in the classroom, and then therefore you as a parent are the better teacher. Therefore you have, again, this is such a classic example where you have somebody who's been doing it for X amount of years, right? And then you have somebody new, and that new person has new mandates, or they're trying to score points with the principal, showing why they gotta be there. And sometimes they're not utilizing the resources, right? That's tried and true. Just like the expression, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? If it's working, don't try to upgrade it. There's a reason why those systems are in place, right? So oftentimes, again, when we go back to when it comes to relationships, we actually have a slide that actually focuses on how do we develop relationships, what really comes first, you know? Honestly, with me, I don't know about you, Dan, it really starts with like relationships, because if I don't know you and I don't trust you, then therefore, how can I trust you based on your vision? How can you trust me based on my work ethic, my work experience, the things that I can help contribute now into the classroom to help better you as a teacher, you know? And then there's like a whole like multitude of layers that come to it when it comes to like job descriptions, when it comes to like trusting the other person in terms of doing their end of the year evaluation, which also has been, you know, which also has contributed to the lack of trust, right? Do I trust my teacher to give me a fair evaluation or so, you know? So those are things that we'll definitely touch on. Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It takes time. It has to be naturally organic. Oftentimes, based on where you are, based on the classroom setting or the assignment, it's something that people want to be there too, which also plays in a factor of how well things gel, you know? And I'm glad that you actually brought that up, because in our next slide, right, we actually touched base on that, Dan, with some famous quotes from people I think that everybody has heard. So like an example, right? I don't know if many of you have ever heard of Vince Lombardi. And I'm a sports guy. I grew up watching sports, all kinds.
Oh, yeah.
And Vince Lombardi was a famous head coach for the Green Bay Packers, correct?
That's right,
And
high
he-
school.
High school, right? And then even now the NFL even created like their own trophy named after him, which is called the
Yeah.
Vince Lombardi Trophy. You know,
He did something right.
yes, he did. You know, he basically stated to that individual commitment to a group effort. That is what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, and a civilization work. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, there's a lot by that. And I can't wait till we turn this over to the teachers to try to get this put in.
Education.
Teacher lingo, education lingo,
Yeah.
which we're gonna be turning over to you guys very soon. But, you know, he just kind of goes right up the ladder. You know, there's like an individual commitment, there's a group commitment, which blossoms into the bigger like community. He called it civilization, but it's the same sort of thing. But what about Henry Ford's quote? I mean, Henry Ford's got a great quote. I'm a history teacher and I love what this guy did, right?
What did he do?
He made the assembly line better. Everybody seems to think he did it, but as a history teacher, I can tell you, the candy people actually did it, right? And then it went to Colt, the gun factory, and then Henry Ford got it, and he made it better. So he did very well that assembly line. Everybody said the cars, but it was really the assembly line, right? That made the cars possible. He said, coming together is a beginning, right? Keeping together is progress, right? And that's kind of like what we said, you know, that it takes time through the year, right? And working together is success.
Oof.
So now, I know we talked about before, you know, maybe a year, you know, sticking together for that year and still trying to have that trust in each other, not taking things the wrong way. But if we stick together, you know, we can make some good things happen.
Which makes sense too in like most cases, right? In any cases, because anytime we have a company or we have a school or a family, no matter what drama happens or a problem happens, the key thing that happens, the key thing that always works, if you stick together, if you put all your cards on the table, right? And you're working together to resolve these issues, no matter how bad it is, because there's strength in unity, you know? There's always strength in unity, which also leads to what Oprah says, you know?
Dan, what did Oprah say?
Well, this is what she says, you know? She says lots of people want to ride with you. You know, lots of people want to ride with you. That's in the limo, all fancy, luxurious. But you know, but the thing is that when you need somebody, when you want someone to take the bus with you, then you know, all of a sudden the limo breaks down and they're not there when you need them. You know, which tends to happens too, like in school. You know, I don't know about you, but people tend to like to work in a classroom that's all like on point, basically
Run smooth.
run smoothly, all like honor AP students, but the
But that
moment
doesn't always happen.
always happen.
What I think she's trying to show there is flexibility between the teacher and the para. You have to have flexibility, especially if you're in a classroom with several paras. Because I work in the middle school,
Yep.
so we've got, you know, 6th grade levels, because ours this year we went 6, 7, and 8. So we have, you know, a 6th grade level para, or, you know, I'm doing 3 grades at once. So it gets kind of tough, but when there's someone else there, you have to be able to tag team. And the flexibility is part of that tag team. I think within the last maybe 8 years, I've dealt with in this building with a fabulous group of people that I work with. There's respect from the teachers, and sometimes even the teacher that you're not working with, they know you. They'll ask you to, you know, come out and read to a student who has problems interpreting things. I think the key of it is more flexibility, and I think that's what she's trying to say in that last quote.
That makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you that that's definitely there, the whole flexibility thing. And I think this is a great segue for us to go into our groups that
Absolutely.
we wanted to go in. So what we're going to do, take a good look at this slide and what Vince Lombardi, what Henry Ford, and what Oprah Winfrey said about their thoughts on teams. I don't know if this is going to be visible to you or not when you go into your groups. So take a good look at this slide, just in case it's not visible to you when you go into your groups. And what I'd like you to do, what Dan and I together would like you to do, is try to come up with something that would involve educational speak. educational talk on teams. Vince Lombardi was talking about football, Henry Ford was talking about the business world. And of course, you got Oprah, she's in the, the entertainment world. What would an educator say?
On this, basically, how do we take this quote and put them into educational language,
Yeah.
how do we make sense of this that makes sense to us as educators?
Yes, you could use this as models, try to figure out, how do you change this to fit the classroom, if you can. Any questions on that? No? Okay, so.
Hold on. I'm sorry. It takes a minute for me to click the button. So we're gonna break off into groups and you want us to come up with, I'm sorry, did you say a slogan or talk? Or what did you say?
Sort of like, the easiest thing to do would be to take one of these quotes and maybe change a few words to make it fit the classroom. That'd probably be the easiest thing to do. If that's not feasible, if you're just not having success doing that, then I guess we got room for you to come up with your own.
Okay.
Education.
Okay. Thoughts on teams, you said. Okay.
Thoughts on teams. Yeah, like
Gotcha.
educational talk.
Yeah.
What would it sound like inside of a school building?
Absolutely. So Rosemary, I don't know if you can make like 3 groups based
You
on.
want 3 or 4?
3.
3.
Yeah, so then like groups, so whoever's in group 1 will have the quote for Vince Lombardi. Whoever's in group 2 will have the quote for Henry Ford. And lastly, group 3 will have the Oprah Winfrey quote. Okay, so that way that it's broken up.
Yeah, so try to work off of these if you can. But again, if you're just having too much trouble and you come up with something that's unique and inspiring and fits the educational setting, maybe in a similar way, then yeah, whatever, take that. That's good too.
All right, I'm creating the groups now.
All right, great.
Very cool. Hey guys, so how was it? So basically, I think Dan, the best way to go is that we go to each group and you guys have to take like maybe like a minute or 2 minutes, just give us your thoughts on as a group. So there's no what was some new ideas. So what was your takeaway from the quotes? So group 1, if you can share your thoughts about what the quote from Vince Lombardi meant, and also in terms of how do we take that and put that into educational language.
So I will go. We had a great group. We are educators joining hands, moving forward with a collaborative approach in order for us to be successful. And us means not only students, but the team of educators.
I like that. Join hands, collaborative approach.
I love that. I love that great because oftentimes Dan and I, we often say that individual commitment to group effort for the person is that what makes a team work is usually means what the classroom, starting the classroom, which means the company works means what?
Which would mean the school.
The school.
The classrooms.
If the classrooms are working, then the schools
should
work. And if the schools are on point, then the society, which is
I
what?
would say the local community.
So the
The
neighborhoods.
neighborhood, the community
And
should
if the
work.
neighborhoods are working, then therefore, if they're working, if they're on point, then everybody else should.
Yeah, the town, the state,
Town.
and then eventually civilization should work. I think for group 1, very nice job on that.
On point and that. Terrific.
Yeah.
Amazing job.
Group 2, Henry Ford coming together as a beginning. What did you guys come up with for that one? Need a spokesperson for group 2.
I think Maria wants to talk. Go ahead, girl. You're muted.
There we go.
Oh,
It was taking a minute, sorry. I wanted you to be the spokesperson because you're the one who had kind of like rephrased it.
Okay, so
okay.
So how we took it was coming together is not just the beginning, it is foundational. So when you're working together as a team together, we are building those children up from crawling to walking, from elementary to high school. We are together that team for success.
I like that. You throw in the team a few times and you throw in like the progression of, crawling through walking, the progression of going through the school system. think that works pretty well. You definitely put that in some good educational lingo.
Right, and the other important thing that was noted in our team was that it really needs to start at the top. The behavior, the collaborative behavior needs to start at the top, and they need to lead by example.
I fully agree with you. As I said before, like these things don't always just happen by mistake. It helps a lot if there was some purpose driven going on. Somebody was, doing it on purpose. And that definitely does, the people up top, principal is supposed to be the building leader, right?
Right,
Principal should be leading, urging, nudging people in this direction. So you're correct on that.
And leading by example, not just like delegating, but leading by example, showing how it's done, so that way that we can follow suit. Because again, at the end of the day, everyone who works in the school, I'm assuming, wants to make things better for everyone. And not everybody,
that's right. And
right?
And if the students don't see that person at the top or the top few people doing it, they will realize that and they will react differently. So I think it's of like the utmost importance that all the top leaders in the environment you're in are all in on that mentality.
I agree, 100% with you, 100%.
Nice job.
Great job, great talks. Group 3, who had Oprah Winfrey, can we please have somebody to chime in a little bit?
Well, I tried to put it in the chat, but we had an awesome group and there was a lot of ideas talking about like using the Olympics and passing the torch throughout the day, and then, the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And then there was other really good ideas. And so try putting it kind of back into Oprah's point. So I just tried to throw our words together. Lots of people want to work in a smooth classroom. What we do to be successful is the teacher teaches and the parents bring up those that need more help. This way we all get to the end. So somebody was saying, the teacher will teach something and maybe half the class or more of the class gets it. And we're in our aspect of teamwork, we're working more one-on-one or small group or whatever to really bring up the rear to make sure everybody's successful by the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Linda, on that loud and clear. It would be great if the teacher stood up in front of the class, put out a quick lesson, and everybody in the classroom just got it. You know what I'm saying? That's the riding in the limo, right? Everybody just gets it. But that doesn't always happen, right?
Correct.
Sometimes that limo is broken. The vehicle of education is not riding correctly. And yeah, then the parent jumps in, does a little extra here, a little extra there. You know what I'm saying? A little.
I should have said we fixed the flat tires.
There you go. Fixing the flat tires. I love it.
I gotta use that, thanks,
Yeah,
Linda.
or at
Love
least the slow leaks.
that.
Right?
Making sure that the gas is up and running full tank, we're not having.
Teacher can have the slow leaks. We fix the flat tires. That's it.
Teachers got MapQuest and the key in the steering wheel, right? You guys have everywhere. If it drives smooth, it drives smooth. But if there's something wrong with the tire, some kid's not fully getting the lesson, you guys do. You guys come in as the fixer. Nice.
Can I make one more comment too?
Oh, sure.
One of my favorite things that is said in our school is, and this comes from the top, which is great, that every adult in the building is a teacher. So the kids don't really look at people, or adults, I should say, in the building necessarily as paras versus, special ed paras versus regular ed paras versus teachers versus, whatever, support staff. They think of everybody kind of on the same plane, which is great because it's less confusing for the kids, for one thing.
Yeah.
And the respect goes all around that way. They don't treat me differently, for example, because I'm not a classroom teacher, because I am a classroom teacher. Every time the teacher leaves the room, I become a classroom teacher.
Yeah,
That's right.
So,
and you're always the educator in the classroom.
and
So-
every adult is doing that in a different way, shape, or form in the school. And so I think it's such a nice thing for the person or, administrative staff to make sure that message is clear from the beginning of the year every year. And then it's just much more team oriented and the kids view it as much more of a team.
Yeah, it would be nice if the principals all across America, trickled that down through their ranks.
It would.
Everybody's equal. Every adult that's in your classroom is is your teacher, is the educator of the class.
Maria, what
That's
district are you in, Maria?
Simsbury.
Uh,
Nakia, you
Can
had
I
a
say
question, right?
something?
Yeah.
I am in Hartford, and it's one thing I must say about our principal. She does consider every one of us in the building as a teacher. She would walk into the classroom and she would let the students know that there are 2 teachers in the classroom,
Very
and she
good.
would call our names.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we should never let the kids play one off the other.
Well,
So-
it's also on the teacher too, because not only does it trickle down from the principal, but also the teacher has to stand there and go, this is the other teacher in the classroom too. So it's not just the principal, it's something that someone else had referred to as trickling down.
Yep.
Yep,
you're right. You're correct again. Absolutely. Every one of us
Well,
should be doing that.
I think though, then I don't know. I feel like some of the teachers feel though, like, well, you don't have that certificate and you don't have that education, and it kind of takes away from them. And that's the tricky part. And I always tell kids in my class, I'm a paraeducator, let's say, well, yeah, but you're like a teacher too. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm the paraeducator. I always say I'm a pair of extra hands and whatever. And I just say, I'm always here to support you in whatever you're doing. And but the teacher does that also. The teacher is going to support the students, but I think it becomes more of a title that some teachers, I don't know, correct me, Dan or Dan, but like they don't want the other adult in that room to have that title.
Territorial,
Territorial, yeah. no
territorial,
doubt.
which is
Territorial.
always
sad.
been, yes, and the thing about that, man, I don't know why that exists, because it's crazy, right? Because you always hear teachers saying, I need more support, I need more help, right? They get the help, and all of a sudden they all become like defensive
Territorial.
and territorial.
Listen, 2 teachers in the classroom is way better than 1 3/4. You know what I'm saying? So teachers are being short-sighted, and I guess that's another reason why we're having this discussion. We're putting this discussion out there. If no one ever talks about it, nothing ever changes. So yeah, I mean, you guys are correct. It's crazy when teachers do that, short-sighted, they're shooting themselves in the foot. 2 adults in the classroom, 2 teachers in the classroom, way better than 1 1/2 or 1 3/4. So
I
but
think you
we need
could
to
look
talk
at
about
it. I'm sorry, Dan.
But
I think you could also look at it as both our roles are very important to the children or to the students, but they may look at it as, say, for instance, a grandmother-mother thing or a mother, a dad thing. We're both important, but then there's always that one person who would seem like they have more authority.
okay, as long as both are allowed to like equally contribute and nobody's demeaning anybody, whether it's intentional or unintentional.
Right.
We can't have any of that happening in the classroom because we have to foster this spirit of collaboration, fairness, equality.
So you're talking about trust and vision, Dan. That's what you're really talking about.
Maybe that's what I am talking about.
If I was your parent right now, do you trust me to run the classroom?
Dan, I would go out and use the bathroom in a second with you there because I know I can trust you. And
You
it
trust me,
should be
Dan?
that way all the time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I trust you.
Nika has had her, I'm sorry if I said your
Yes.
name wrong. Nika's had her hand raised
Yes,
for a
Nika.
while. Nika, you do have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, we can't see that very well.
Yeah,
from here.
hi, I'm sorry. I was following Robert Rules of Order. I'm used to that. So, but I just simply wanted to add on and build with the connection. Simply that it's like a household. We all have families. I heard somebody has 5 kids, somebody's a new grandma. So it's like it's very simple. Everyone's in the household. You have a mom or a dad or however the dynamic is. And the child will, my son, he knows mommy, but then he knows if dad makes a directive or a command, he'll take heed. So the thing is, a collaborative partnership between parents and educators will make a big difference because these children, students and kiddos are highly smart and can be manipulative. So they know, okay, if teacher A says I can't go to the bathroom, well, let me come to Ms. Turner, the sped para, to see if she'll assist me to get the answer that I want. And then the teacher will be on the same team. She said no, my answer is no. So I just want to build off of that. Thank
Yeah.
you,
Thank
Lauren,
you.
for
Yes.
recognizing my hand.
Good job on that. We can
Yeah.
never allow staff splitting.
And I have one more thing to
Yes,
say related
yes.
to that, and that is, I want to cite an example. One year I worked with a teacher that was really, really adamant about me not interacting with anybody else in her classroom other than the 3 students that I was assigned to. And which, I understand it's her, it's kind of her, show, but it made me feel so sad for these 3 kids because they truly, palpably did not feel like a part of the fabric of the classroom as a result of that. And, because she didn't view me as a co-teacher, call it whatever you want, the other kids in the classroom didn't, and the students that I was servicing really felt almost like ostracized, which just was so sad. So that mentality, that attitude about making sure, there's a hierarchy, there is a hierarchy and it's in the pay. And so nobody, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
So we
enough.
know we can't compete there, but it's detrimental to the well-being of the students if they don't truly feel in every classroom, whether they're in their main classroom or, an outbreak room or somewhere else where they get services, that they don't feel like everybody's working together for them. And, how students view that is very interesting. These kids are not dummies. They know when, kids are being like separated, that kind of thing. So I would hope that that doesn't happen too often. I was disappointed as an adult to work with another adult who, didn't feel like we could work collaboratively together. And I hope that doesn't happen too often.
Hopefully it never happens again, but it probably will somewhere. As far as I know, the teacher didn't buy the classroom and pay for the classroom.
Right?
I think the district kind of did that. And the district put 2 adult educators in that classroom. So I think the district has some kind of vision of maybe hopefully what they want to see in that classroom. And the teacher doesn't seem to be on the same page. It's sad, but again, like we need to have these conversations, not just in this PD, but around our school buildings. We need to have this because it's good for the kids for us to work as 2 adult educators and not 1.5.
But Dan, the truth is that they have to have those meetings with the teachers and the paras together. Because when it's told to the paras in one room,
That's your
and
point.
you don't know what's said to the teachers in the other room, and it's never done together. And I've been arguing that for years. It needs to be done together.
You're correct, and I'm going to vote for you for the new superintendent of schools.
Nope.
Right. Or, or set up programs for paras to get certified. If that's a problem and they look at us differently because of the lack of certification by the state, then there should be like a program that we have to meet certain requirements to meet some level of certification. Because I'm working sometimes with teachers that are 20 years younger than I am. And I feel like I have more experience as an adult, as a parent, as everything than they do. But, so let us ante up and get certification if that's what it's going to take to earn that respect. But Linda's absolutely right. And it's, we're not allowed at the PPTs, even though we're the person that is with the student like all day. So, things like that, I just think they're ineffective.
But wasn't there something some years ago where the parent has on the parent's rights list for a PPT, they have the right to request that the para attend the meeting? Am I correct or incorrect?
You are correct.
Yeah, but I think
So
it's
the thing
really
is
frowned
that
upon.
the parents need to know that, and that is not basically written in the notations for the PPT.
The only way to be included is to, on the sideline, talk to the parent and let them know
Exactly.
that you have the information they want, that you work closely with their student, and that the district will not invite you unless they request it. I did that one year, and the mother and father were so grateful that I spoke to them like that.
I did
If you
too.
don't want me there, that's fine. But if you
Yeah.
want me there, you need to let them know that.
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm so proud of you guys. That's way to go. I'm so glad you helped that parent advocate for what was good for their kid. And I gotta tell you, Dan, this group we have today is so intelligent
They
that they're
are.
pretty much like stealing our whole
Yeah,
presentation.
they are. Different
Did you
slides
guys,
here and there.
did you guys already look at our notes? I mean, everything we're talking about is stuff that, we have to talk about, and hopefully we'll get to most of it. But if we don't get to all of it, I have no fear that you guys don't already know a lot of this stuff. So I'm really glad we're bringing this out, and I guess we're going to our next slide now. So-
Basically, yeah, so to basically, folks, what we have here is basically like a list of general, general job description, role responsibilities that paras and teachers have. Now, typically, if we were doing this in person, Dan and I had a skit that would do that'd be like kind of funny. I do more, or we're talking about I do this, I do more doing this, and so on and so forth. But basically, just informally, I would like to ask you, based on these general job descriptions that's here, some of these job descriptions are also like interchangeable as well, because so some of the duties that the paras are assigned to do, the teachers can also do.
Yeah.
And then sometimes some of the job descriptions that the teachers do, sometimes the paras do to basically assist or ask or do it informally, especially with our paras who are bilingual, where sometimes they're actually put on the spot and they're asked to do some translating to a parent, or also like during a PPT, which also can be kind of nerve-wracking because that's a recorded meeting. That's like a meeting that will go away. So I just want to know, based on this or based on any other past work experience that our folks have, what are some ways that as educators, teachers, parents, and so on and so forth, how can we increase work productivity? How can we better improve our working relationships? Or better yet, how can we better improve so we're not badgering each other in terms of, this is your job, no, this is my job, this is your job, and not being so annoying in terms of the responsibilities that each role has. How can we really gel together so that way we're creating harmony, so that way that we are fostering not only respect, but also increasing relationships, because that's what matters too, right?
Absolutely. And if you see in the blue, that's the typical para educator on the left. Like for example, assistive behavior. Yeah, when Dan was a para, he did that. But guess what? I think we both did it. What I'm saying? On the right, in the black, the teacher responsibilities, designs, implements, evaluates instruction. Yeah, the teacher's doing that. I did that. But when Dan was a para, he was doing some of that stuff too. So again, I agree with you. I mean,
Hey, Dan and Dan?
do it. Yes.
Not to interrupt you, but we have a few hands up. So first up, we've got Carol.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead, Carol, fire away. Carol Inglis.
You got to unmute yourself. Or there we go.
Sorry, I actually got tired of waiting, kind of spoke out of turn, but about one of the things that I wanted to share was that occasionally, and this has happened to me in the past, you walk into a classroom with someone who has been teaching for quite a while and has not experienced an inclusion para coming into their room, and suddenly they're on the defense. That's probably one of the most restrictive conditions I've ever encountered. So in other words, the teacher was kind of not open-minded to have me come into the classroom. And I had to walk on eggshells for a really long time until she was able to realize that I'm not going to tell the principal what she does in her classroom or her teammates, the other grade level teachers, and that I'm not going to tell her how to do her job because it's not my job, but rather I'm there to support her. And by the end of the year, she had never had a para before she had me in the room. And a couple years later, she requested me to come to her room because she knew she was going to have students that were going to be included.
So it sounded like it started off kind of rough. I don't know if she ever communicated to you what her expectations were or not, but it sounded like over time you kind of won her over, and maybe a little more freedom, kind of go back and forth and do different kinds of things in the classroom. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I had to make sure that she knew that I was following her classroom structure, whatever it was, whether I agreed with it or not was not important. And then, you know, every now and then something would come up and she'd have to leave the room for a minute. And at first she was very nervous about it. But after she left a couple times, you know, to take a phone call or to use the bathroom or whatever, she realized that I'm competent, that, you know, I'm not going to steal her job. I'm not going to rat her out if she does something that's kind of funky or whatever, that I'm there to support as part of the team.
So now, being someone that's been through this, and maybe it took a couple of years to get to where you got to, where things were okay. I mean, do you ever need advice for others that are walking into that classroom with that type of teacher and that can speed up the process? I mean,
Right.
to go back and do it again, what would you do? Or what advice
I
you
would do,
have?
I would do exactly what I did, and that is A, be patient, B, be observant. So you realize the quirks or whatever of the classroom. And make sure that you follow suit. And if a teacher gives you a direction and you're not quite sure where they want you to go with that, look to clarify so that you don't get slapped in the face later, so to speak.
I think that's good advice there. Very good advice.
You know, I do it all the time. I always seek out clarifications. And the thing is, folks, there is no such thing as a stupid question in school. But the thing is that most people would want you to do that, right? Because at the end of the day, they want the job done however they want it. So always seek out clarifications, because that way, whoever's asking that, the person that's being asked that will recognize that and see, you know what, this person not only is doing the job, but they want to make sure that they want to better themselves. And then they will take that into account. Wow, this person, we value it, because they want to make sure that whatever objective it has to be done is being done with fidelity.
Any last thoughts before we move on to another person that had their hand up? On that? Patience, seek clarification.
Okay,
Okay.
next would be, I apologize if I mispronounced your name here, Spiridula?
Yes.
Oh, I got it.
Got it. I've been teaching for about 23 years and I teach in Hartford. And I think going back to what you guys said about it needs to come from the administration, because the para and I are colleagues and we work together. And what I struggle with is, you know, what is their responsibilities? And sometimes that needs to be clarified by administration, because most of the time, you know, we're begging for paras and we still are, but they're one-to-one. So my thing is like, do I ask, can you work with others, or are they just assigned to that one student? And so sometimes I feel like, you know, I don't want to be the supervisor, because I'm not, I'm the colleague. And I think what we need to have is at the beginning of the year is clarification on job roles and what paras, you know, can do outside of, say, if they're in just a one-to-one, or can they, you know, assist in other areas. I know sometimes having that conversation with the para is good, but then sometimes I'm like leery, because I'm like, I'm a colleague. I'm not here to, you know, tell someone what to do. That is the administrator's job. So that's what I struggle with.
Okay. Can I get
Can I make a comment on that one? Where I work, basically, the teachers asks us, because not only as a one-on-one, you're still trying to integrate that child in the classroom. So, you know, the teacher will say, we'll take some, you know, kids that are more able to work with a disabled child, or, you know, this one-on-one child, to kind of include them. So if we break out into groups or we're working on something, you know, we try to put that student in with a group of kids that is going to accept them and is willing to work with them. I think a lot of the problem is too that a lot of the teachers feel like there's a line that they can't cross. If you're going to work as a team, you know, discuss it with the case manager. go right to the case manager and say, you know, is it okay if I do this, that, or the other? To avoid that awkwardness with the
Exactly.
parent. It's more of a lack of communication between the case manager and the teacher themselves.
I'd like to add to that if I could.
Yep, please do.
That is that as the classroom teacher, you are ultimately responsible for your classroom. You need to know what that one-to-one student, for lack of a better way to say it, how they work. You need to know them personally. The only way that you can do that is if you work with them.
Going through the motions, right, Carol? You got to
When
go through
I-
the
Well, yeah, that's not what I was trying to say. I was saying that, yeah, of course, we work with all the students, but as a para, usually we don't have just a para to work with all the students. They're usually assigned to a one-to-one student. And
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, because I've been through this, as a one-to-one para, if my student seems to be doing things okay, then I don't stand by that student. I work with other kids in the classroom. If the teacher in that classroom wants to go over and work with the student that I'm assigned to work with one-to-one, that's the classroom teacher's prerogative, because that's the only way you can really get to know them.
Well, and she
So,
needs,
You know,
they
if they
need to
become,
build that rapport. They
If-
need to
if-
build that rapport with them.
if they become dysregulated, you might want to refer back to the para so that they can help you to, you know, bring the student back to a workable mode, for lack of a better term. But the para is there to support the entire classroom, not just that one student,
Exactly.
if they can. If you take over with said one-to-one student, that frees up your para to work with other students. I'm sure that there's more students that need help in the classroom that would benefit with a little, you know, a 3-to-1 or 3-to-4 experience with the para educator.
So you
In the
guys,
meantime, that frees you up to work with that one-to-one student.
so you guys are making my job really easy tonight, because you're throwing out questions I would have thrown out, and you're throwing out answers I would have thrown out. So you're definitely making my job a lot easier tonight. I'm really glad that we're having this opportunity to be, I guess we're collaborating
Yes, we are.
with them, you know, instead of just talking to them. We're collaborating with our audience today. And I would say, yeah, I've been in that situation too, where I wasn't sure what to do. Principal, nobody, assistant principal, department head, case manager, nobody came and talked to me about what was supposed to go on. But I guess as an adult, as the two adults in the classroom, sometimes you just gotta take that first step, even if it's a big step. You gotta take that first step and say, hey, what are you comfortable with doing? You know what I'm saying? I want to give you an opportunity to do what you want to do in here to help educate your kids. But if you're not comfortable doing something, that's not a big deal. What do you, and you know, you got to kind of put yourself on a limb a little bit, try to get to know the para, or the para get to know the teacher. You know, what are you expecting from me? What are my duties in here? Blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, what are you comfortable doing with the para? Not always an easy conversation, maybe sometimes awkward. It would be better if it was top down, but that rarely happens. So then we have to take the responsibility, the initiative ourselves to, you know, we're all friends here, you know.
Create that climate culture, that's what
Yeah,
I'm talking
the
about.
climate culture, we're all friends here. What are you
Yeah.
comfortable doing, you know? Now,
Yeah, that's a
challenge
good
you,
way
how
to
do you feel
approach it.
comfortable? Nothing, so we're trying to do all that stuff. I think maybe it'd be a good time for us to go to our next slide, because I think you guys are gonna get a kick out of this next slide.
There are two more people with hands up. Did you want to take their questions at
sorry.
the end?
Yes, I didn't
Yes,
see the
yes.
hands, thank you.
Next is Cheryl.
Okay, Cheryl.
Hi
Well, I'm
there. So I absolutely love this topic. As I was speaking in our breakout room before, I'm one of 4 of the de-escalation PMT trainer coaches in our district. And something that I feel is so detrimental to the parent-teacher relationship. Again, I love the word foundational because everything starts from the bottom up, is to build that relationship. If Dan and Dan didn't have a relationship, there would not be a cohesive classroom, and the children would definitely have seen that. And that causes the reaction of para-teacher line not to be crossed. So for me, since I found my voice, I also want to be the voice of the children. So at the beginning of the school year, I do believe that we should build that relationship with the teacher and the para, get to know what they want in their classroom. And as we collaborate together, there is already a line drawn as there is no line. We are together. We need to be united. So that's at the beginning of the school year, is to have that plan. Also, something that I also bring to my trainings is there's a backpack, and it comes with a question at the bottom. And that is getting to know your students, the people around you. Ask the questions, get to know them. So this way we both know, the teacher and the paraprofessional, who is going to be better to suit that child. Because we're very different. We're unique. Dan and Dan have the same name, but I'm more than certain you guys have different qualities where you could relate to me, Cheryl, and you could relate to Carol very differently, because you took the time to get to know who they are and what's in their backpack. And that goes along the line of observing the children. And then once all that's done, I would reconvene and get to know another plan that goes into the second half of the year. Because now you've established the roles of you and your para, and you've also figured out what or who works best with each child. And that makes a cohesive relationship. And I'm not saying that that's how my school year is, but it is getting a little better. I've been here for 22 years, and I work with teachers that are brand new and they're 23 years old, younger than my own child. But that's where we get to help them, right? Because we're good people and we work together.
Which Dan's also great too, because that's also part of our slide when it comes to like, how do we make this better?
Yeah, the mentorship, absolutely. I think that what, are you done there, Cheryl? That was a great answer.
I'm sorry. Yes, I could talk forever. I apologize.
No, it was beautiful. It was great information. And I think Nika was also maybe.
Yep, real quick before we go to Nika, Joy in the chat just also mentioned communication is key in everything. So if possible, teachers and paras can make a connection before school starts, which I know can be tough, but finding the time to do that would be important.
Absolutely.
It would help to alleviate some of the stress of the problems that we've been talking about. And now we can go to Nika, who's had her hand up for a long time.
Thank you, Nika, for your patience. I know that this is.
It's fine. It's okay. I'm so sorry, but I forgot. So if it comes back, train of thought, I'll go ahead for another.
All right, no problem, no problem. So here we are. Dan, we are having some great talks, great discussions. We're hearing everyone's experience here. There's a lot of experience here in this session, which also leads to our next slide here. And Dan, I want to know from your perspective as a teacher, based on the first question, do you see yourself as in charge? Do you see yourself as the man in the classroom?
Coming from, I've been teaching, I think this is my 25th year.
25 years.
Yeah, and maybe it's just my personality. I don't know, but I tend to get along with most people. And I really appreciated the other adult in the classroom, which I frequently had through those 25 years. So I never really saw myself as like the one in charge when it kind of comes to like that authoritarian type of like in charge. I don't mind taking some responsibility, obviously, and doing what needs to get done for our classroom. But I always kind of looked at it more like responsibility, not in charge, right? I pretty much never looked at my, the other adult in the classroom as like my subordinate. That just never sat well, man. I've even thought about subordinate, maybe like, hey, can you help me with this sort of thing, like a teamwork sort of thing. So teachers that are on the line, where do you see yourself when it comes to, do you see yourself like as in charge of like subordinates, or do you see yourself as more of like partners? Like, where do you see yourself, and where do you think most teachers see themselves in that situation? Any teacher that's on the call. Anybody want to speak up? Anybody feeling brave? Okay, so Dan, why don't you hit it from your angle with paras, and we'll see what the paras are seeing about in charge.
Fantastic. Okay, my parents, this is my question to you. When you're working in your school sites, all right, in your day-to-days and your experiences now or from previous years, do you feel that your teacher trusts you? Do you feel that your teacher trusts your judgment? Does your teacher gives you as much authority as they do when it comes to running the show, when it comes to classroom management, when it comes to school discipline, when it comes to, you know, doing a structured or unstructured activity? Do they trust your vision, judgment? What are your thoughts on that one, Eris?
Well, I could tell you sometimes it changes depending on the person I'm working with. There's many times.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I think the teacher should be in charge in overall. Like, I don't have the responsibility of doing everything the teacher has the responsibility of. I'm not signed up to be the teacher. I'm signed up to be a support person. But when I say that I expect them to be in charge, like, they have to set the tone of their room and I can help enforce it, if that makes sense. Because if the tone is not set and, you know, there's already not good classroom management and whatever, which really has to come first, how do you support? Like, you can't enforce anything if the teacher's not enforcing it. But mostly I do feel like a partner, like even like Carol said, you know, the teachers are fine with leaving the room and knowing that I will be in charge of that room when they're not in there. And I have some teachers that have the expectation where I come off as more of a co-teacher. The kids just think I'm the extra teacher in the room. I have no problem with that. But most of them, I feel, do allow me my own judgment, especially with behaviors. And, you know, that's something that that's just been a lot of my background. And I don't feel like they don't think I'm qualified. And a lot of them ask me for my input. But when I meet somebody new, like this year, I had a lot of new teachers I was working with that maybe weren't new teachers, new for me to work with in inclusion. And some of them, it was almost like, I don't really know her and I'm not sure if I can trust her. And within a few weeks, they're already very comfortable with me because they get that I'm there to be an extension of them, you know? And if you can get through to that with your teacher, they're not necessarily in charge of you. They just like pass their powers through you. Does that even make sense?
I like that.
It sure does, Linda. As a matter of fact, I've been very fortunate for the last couple of years to have the majority of the teachers that I work with. Sometimes they'll just say, I'm taking the class while they do attendance. They do this, they do that. And it's worked out great. Like I said, the majority of the teachers.
Right. But the problem I see is that there's too many variations on that theme. So from classroom to classroom, you don't know what you're going to get. And I think, again, that comes from the top. I pretty much operate like Linda was saying. You know, when the teacher's in the room, I defer to her or him. And as soon as they leave the room, I have no problem taking control of that classroom and the kids know it. But from room to room, I mean, I've literally had teachers in the room say to me, I don't even want you getting a box of markers out because I don't think you'll know which box of markers to take out. And I'm like, seriously? So, you know, it runs the gamut, and that needs to come from the top, that whoever has a para in the room needs to truly portray that person as a co-teacher at every moment in time. And if they don't, then you're ultimately hurting the students and the fabric of the classroom and the school.
So true.
I have a quick question.
Portia has had her hand up. Can Portia go next? And then we'll go to, I apologize, iPad 5. You said your name earlier and I don't remember it. So sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'll go really quick. I'll try and go really quick. I think the way our classroom is set up, the dynamic is, it is the head teacher, I call her a head teacher, the head teacher and 3 other paras, which I'm included. So we have more or less a learning lab, and we don't have that many children. It's set up where it's 10 children. And we have such, I must say we're very blessed. we have a group of teachers and paras that have been together for 3-4 years. So we understand one another. Although our children change, we basically don't change. We still have the same type of dynamic as we leave, you know, the curriculum up to the teacher, and then we reinforce. And then we see if a child is hard to learn from us, we do that tag team. Okay, you know what, tag, you're it. The child then goes to the other teacher, vice versa, and we switch off like that, whether it be behavior or whether it be educational. We have, you know, we have a system. And I'm not going to say that, you know, all days is the sun is shining. Sometimes there are days where it's cloudy and it's raining, and we all have to decompress. And we pretty much just learn from one another, good days and the bad days. But then at the end of the day, we regroup and we talk about it.
Good stuff. Very good stuff. We had somebody else with their hand up.
Well, iPad 5 had a question first. She doesn't have her hand raised, but then after that we can go to Carol.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the name on iPad number 5. Okay, we can go to Carol next then.
All right, Carol.
So just, I don't like to be contradictory, but that's exactly what I'm going to do now.
Okay.
And I don't think it needs to come from above. I think that it's up to the para and the teacher to communicate expectations. They need to work together. They need to take the time to hear each other.
Yeah.
In the recent years, I've been in this school system for 35 years, but in recent years, I find that teachers are more open to having paraeducators in the classroom, realizing the value of having a paraeducator in the classroom. There are times where, you know, I'll walk into a classroom, the teacher's got a small reading group and the rest of the children are doing something else, and I'll look to the teacher and say, do you want me to pull some kids out and work with them? And I leave it to her or them or him or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But 90% of the time I go in, I look around, see what's going on, and I join in.
Yeah.
My schedule is such that I'm a half hour here, and then I'm a half hour there, and then I'm half hour there. And so there's no time to waste. So like I said, the first thing I do is look and see what's going on in the room. And then I go from there. The teacher also has to, if there's something in particular they need to do, they need the para to do, they have to feel free to say to the para, can you work with so-and-so and so-and-so, because I want to work with so-and-so and so-and-so.
Yes.
These students that they're asking me to work with may not be my students. So the only time that I might kind of bump away is if I have a one-to-one student who needs me very close by and available at any second.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm there for the whole class.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like what you're saying. And I think in the perfect world, everything would trickle down just fine. Doesn't always happen that way. And I think the bottom line is, like, you're both right on your approaches. But many times it's just going to be one adult to another adult. Hey, how are we going to make this work? You know, para to teacher, teacher to para. How are we going to make this work? And then hopefully, you know, you got an administrator somewhere that's poking their head in, checking to make sure things are running smoothly, that there's no problems. That's probably more of the reality of what's going to happen, or what maybe the ideal thing in the real world on how it will work. Because, you know, the administrators, they're not that good sometimes at voicing their visions and then staying on message over and over and over again about how it all comes from the top down, about how things should work. Doesn't always run smooth like that. So again, sometimes, and we hope it does, we want it to, but it doesn't always go that way. So many times, it's just one adult to another adult in the classroom saying, hey, how do we make this work? What do we got to do? No one's stepping on no one's toes. You know what I'm saying? We're building a relationship here, and how do we make it work? So speaking of that, Dan, building those relationships and making things work, I think we're going to go to our next slide.
Which is
Planning becomes a problem, part of that, of making things work.
Yeah, and also, Dan, just to further add on, if you know, one general thing I'm hearing from everybody else, the reason why their classrooms are working, because the fact is that their administrators are not involved, is because usually what I'm hearing is the teachers and paras are taking the bull by the horn. They are taking that first initial step too, which if you notice that if you take that first initial step without waiting for that admin directive, things are going a lot more smoother than before, you know. And also part of the reason why that these problems tend to happen, you know, really comes down to planning. What's planning, Dan? What is planning?
It's a good question because we get so little time to do it. But
you know what's crazy, Dan, about that is that, you know, we all work in schools, right? And people, and then you have what's called the experts that are trying to like maximize time. But it seems to me that no matter what game plan they put on paper, we're always scrambling, just trying to like follow that.
Yeah, no doubt. So let me go to the next slide just real quick. I love that Rosemary put up the next slide already because it feeds right into what we're saying.
Exactly.
You know, more planning equals time together. And this is key because time together equals bonding. You guys can already see where we're going with this. You know, the bonding is better relationships. Somebody earlier said it, I think Dan repeated it, relationships are everything, right? So time together, planning, bonding, relationships, these are all really important things. Hopefully it doesn't take 2 or 3 years for it to happen. It'd be nice if it happened by Halloween or by Christmas, whatever. But I think, you know, Dan, I said that we don't always get a lot of time.
We don't.
To plan. Is that what you're thinking too?
I'm thinking the same way
Don't you
too.
expand? Yeah.
And what's crazy is too, folks, is that like if anyone of you ever watched like sports teams, the high school, the college, the pros, you know what's crazy, Dan, is that no matter what team or sport you're watching, they always seem to be together because they always seem to have time. You know, they always manage to find time during the practices, during the off season.
They plan more than they play the game.
Yes, they do, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, we do the opposite.
We do more live and like less planning, whereas the pros, they're getting paid so many X millions of dollars, they do more planning than it is like actual live games.
Yeah, the live is
on a Sunday night
still
afternoon.
So what we'd like you guys to do is think about how much time do you spend together and think of some examples, you know, personal, professional experience, you know, what can help us spend more time together? You know, whether it doesn't have to be just planning, but how do you spend more time together? And then the more time, that kind of one hand watches the other. If you spend more time together, you're going to find yourself sometimes talking about work. You know what I'm saying? And some of the planning is going to get done inadvertently or indirectly that way. So I think that we were talking about, I know we're starting to get low on time. We've got maybe 10 minutes left. Maybe we could do like a 4-minute breakout room, come back, we pull it out for a couple minutes and wrap everything up. If you guys can, when you're in your breakout rooms, try to think of ways, examples of, you know, how do you find ways to spend more time together, whether it's planning together, whether it's doing things together, it's building relationships. How do you find ways to do that? Or maybe more time to do that? Am I missing anything, Dan?
No, you hit it on. So basically, bottom line is that how do we find more time with the time that we do have, and what are some ways for us to maximize that time so that way that we are building, fostering healthy, positive relationships with our colleagues.
All right, so everybody okay with that? Anybody have any questions on that?
Before we go to the breakout, Anne has had her hand up for a bit.
Cool, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Dan and Dan. My take on the way the school year is going is quite different from a lot of the positives that I'm hearing. In my room, there is a new teacher. There are 2 new paras. There is a new nurse, and a couple of the nurses have been there. So you've got a lot of adults in the room who have their own idea about the way things should go. we've been through 4 teachers in the last 3 years in that room. The kids are a little bit apprehensive about these strangers who keep coming into their room. It's an MPH room, so they don't elevate to the next level or anything. They're within the elementary school level that I'm in for 6 years. And it has been extremely difficult to try to get a meeting of the mind of all of the adults, more so than trying to get the kids to adjust to being within the classroom. A lot of them already were. And I'm not real sure how to deal with that, except for time and let things settle in a way that see what works. Even though you already know that, this is going to go really bad, and you just kind of sit back, because if you keep offering your opinion over and over again, then you get labeled as the know-it-all, the one who wants to be it all, you know?
Well,
and I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head a couple of different places in this little thing that you just talked about. Even when you said that the kids feel that the adults, the new teachers coming in the room with strangers, well, the adults probably feel like strangers. Yeah, maybe I see you in the classroom every day, but I never have time to really talk to you outside the classroom and never build those relationships. I think that's one of the things that you probably, the adults in that classroom, haven't had the chance to do. They just probably rush into that classroom, try to do the best they can do in that classroom, and then rush on to their next duty or their next responsibility, whatever it may be. So I think that this breakout room you guys are about to have, which I think is now down to like 3 minutes, might be helpful in trying to figure out how do the adults find more time together so that they're not strangers to each other.
All right, so I'm going to hit the breakout rooms now.
All right, maybe 3 minutes because we're getting low here.
You got it.
We got a long way to go.
Hey, come on now.
I think what we gotta do is we gotta talk about and do this, emphasize this. What we're hearing is that everybody,
It's not your fault.
it's not your fault. And then just go ahead and just bang it out because. But you know what though, this is good though, because there's a lot of people that's talking and there's and there's a and we're touching nerves.
Have to be cognizant of their time. So when this little thing ends, we have to say 6:30. Some of you may have to go. We have to be cognizant of their time. So, I mean, Rosemary, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so I don't know if you were here, or we were just kind of talking softly. According to the time here, we're supposed to officially end at 4 minutes. Obviously, Dan and I can say a lot more.
I will say that we did start 5 minutes late.
So we go maybe 5 more.
So I would say, like, for me personally, I'd be okay going to like 6:45. Do you want to see if they're okay staying the extra 15 minutes?
I figured after we talk about this thing that we're talking about, we'll check with them and be considerate of their time. And maybe if a couple of them want to leave, they gotta go. But if a few want to stay, then we can talk a little bit longer for the few that want to stay. So we'll be respectful of their time. Ask if they want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. I'm going to, I've got another minute to go, and then I will hit the close rooms, and that'll give us the minute that takes to close. That'll be 3 minutes.
And also one thing that what Ben and I realizing is that there's a lot of, we're touching a lot of like emotions here. And that's the reason why it's,
They're subjects that I think a lot of people have nerves about.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the whole point of this workshop, is to basically address those. Why? And again, this is so hard to do it like online now, seeing how it is, because there's a lot of feedback and waiting, and then like even in person too. Like this workshop here can't just be an hour and a half. This is really like a 2 hour 30.
This should be a 2-hour workshop, I think.
Yeah. But these discussions need to be taking place all over America.
Oh yeah. 100%.
And we edited this thing down too. Like we actually took our original one and we just chopped it down to try to make it a little more fluid.
Well, we're getting a lot of crowd participation, which is nice because They've got some good stuff they're saying. They've got a lot of good stuff they're saying.
Rooms are closing in 60 seconds.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the conversation's been really rich from just their, what they're adding to it. I think it's enriching it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Me and Dan are getting to say a lot of what we wanted to say, but they're kind of saying it for us.
Yeah, they're hitting some of the points that you have. So
Yeah.
it's good.
So it's, yeah, definitely is good. No doubt. It should be coming back in any minute.
15 seconds.
So this is slide 4. What
seven.
was 7? The building relationships?
What slide do we want to go to next?
Well, we're on 7 right now, right?
Yes, okay, so
Let's
this
just
is,
sit on that one for a minute
and then like.
until we check with them, with their time.
And then what we'll do is we'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
But we're here, and we'll just figure it out.
That's how we got.
That was not enough
Sometimes
time.
they would break out rooms and stuff.
That was quick, real quick, we know that. But we want to be respectful of your time and see where you guys want to go with this in a moment. But we'll go over this first and then we'll talk about the time. Is everybody back?
Yes.
All right, so fantastic. So whoever was in group 1, can you guys give me some like examples in terms of how do we maximize time during the day?
So there is no maximizing time because there is no time.
Okay, we get that.
That's the reality of it, yeah?
Continue.
You know, the other people in my group, I don't know what district they were from, but they said, you know, there's just not enough people, there's not enough hands, there's not enough paras. And in New Britain, it's the same thing. There's not enough people. I did share with the group that last year, because everybody was online, we got the first half hour of the school day to meet as a team. So we have 3 special education teachers and 5 special education paraeducators. And we met as a team to share ideas, to give results on how certain things went, certain activities with the kids. And it was fantastic. It was a dream. It'll never happen again.
Yeah, Tammy and I are from Hartford.
Oh, okay, so
Yes.
so it's basically the same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is this still group 1?
Yes, we're
Okay.
done.
All right, group 2, let's hear what, group 1, we totally hear what you're saying. We're gonna hear all the groups out before we start commenting, okay? So, group 2, what did you
So-
come up with?
I'll take the lead on that one. I was bringing up years ago, we had, obviously we all know there is no time in the day. You have to raise your hand and sprinkle water drops just to get to the restroom.
Yep.
But what there is a set amount of time that we need to put into our day. So every Wednesday years ago, and we were in a special ed inclusion program which had 5 classrooms. And every Wednesday morning, a half hour before school started, the district paid for the paraprofessionals to come in and we had a collaboration time. We spoke about new students. We spoke about behaviors that were new or old or what better for somebody else, because we all rotated every 3 months. And on Friday afternoons, and it's just an example of how we can get this together. You know, maybe you have 2 second grade teachers, you're only in 2nd grade, not me, I'm in 5 classrooms though, but just an example. You can actually put 1 classroom together. The kids could be doing like whatever iPad time or however that looks. And the 4 of you, 6 of you could get together. Unless the district is going to pay for the paraprofessionals to stay after school or come in before school, I don't see that happening. There is no other time.
Thank you, group 2. Yeah, that was very creative and appreciate your help on that. Group 2, are you done or do you have more? Anybody else? We guys good? Good.
Group
Group
3.
3, let's hear what you gotta say.
Ooh, same slide.
Group 3.
You're up.
You're up, spokesperson.
Hi, I'm gonna speak up and everyone, you can chime in. Again, we were talking about how I think I was at an advantage because I have that one classroom where we can bond easily. We can spend time together and we build the relationships as to where maybe the other paras, go from one classroom to another. So you have to get to know the teachers more. You have to get to know the dynamic of the class more. So that might be, a bit of a disadvantage. Anybody else want to chime in? Come on, group 3, we could do it.
Well, I was saying how like also with the COVID year we had and the students left early last year and we had time to communicate and whatever. But yeah, I remember the days where we used to stay after sometimes and we got paid to do it. But if the district's not going to pay for it, it's not going to happen. And the other thing I was saying that I do a lot of the communicating through email also with teachers because you just, unless the kids are like supposed to be doing something where they're working independently, and there's almost always somebody that's not going to work independently, that's our best chance at talking. And we just keep doing it on the fly.
Yeah, that's definitely good advice. Linda, sometimes that's how it is on the fly. I mean, I'm hearing over and over the themes. We don't have time, which is true. We don't have time. But if the district or if the principal puts something in motion, it really helps. If they pay, it really helps. But that's not going to frequently happen. So maybe it's a couple minutes grabbing a cup of coffee in the staff room. Yep. Maybe it's a couple minutes over lunch. Maybe it's a couple minutes walking in the hallway to your next class. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's creative of stealing a few minutes here, stealing a few minutes there. Maybe once a month, you get a babysitter and you go out to a happy hour once a month. I know that's much easier said than done, especially for parents, teachers, educators, parents that have kids. It's hard to do, but I'm just saying sometimes you got to think outside the box and just find a few minutes, wherever. Maybe I get to school 5 minutes early and we talk 5 minutes earlier. Yeah, sometimes I got to get out of here quick, but I think in Britain, they tell us students leave 10 minutes later, the adults can leave. Maybe it's in that 10 minutes. Who knows where it is? Any suggestions, Dan?
Absolutely, too. Also, too, guys, just want to point out, too, that time is everything. And, each classroom, each school district runs differently based on like how they want to manage time. I do know that with certain contracts, right? Here we go. Here goes the business side of things. I know with certain contracts, they have it embedded them where they actually allow the parents to come in earlier and they actually pay them that contractually. So that's one avenue in terms of finding more time with it. I know that our folks over in Manchester, the parents over at Manchester Public School, they actually had it written down where they have, contractually, they are able to arrive 30 minutes prior to the start of the student day, paid, so that way that they can go and have that meeting times with their teams, which also include prep time or whatever the case may be. Another thing too, that's a reality about it. If Ms. Rosemary can go back one slide prior, so is that that right there is that time is everything. And the thing is that, Dan, if we're not spending enough time with each other and we're not building those type of relationships, and if we have poor relationships amongst ourselves, then the following gets disordered. Therefore we're not having that type of trust. We're not trusting each other in terms of our vision. I'm not me as the parent, I'm not trusting Dan in terms of when it comes to my mid-year and end of year work performance, job performance, end of year evaluations,
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why it's so important to find this time, wherever we may find it on the fly, as Linda said. Sometimes you're going to find it on the fly, right? But speaking of time, we want to be respectful of your time. So we want to check in with you. This was supposed to end about 6:30. I know we started a few minutes late, so run a few minutes late, I guess. Some of you may have to leave right now because you have other commitments. That's fine. But if there's some of you that want to stick around for a little bit longer, Dan and I are willing to stick around for a little bit longer as well and continue talking to you about teacher-parent collaboration. You just got to let us know where you stand. If you've got another commitment, you got to get home, you only planned for 6:30, that's fine. You know, go do what you gotta do. Thank you for the time you spent with us tonight. But if anybody wants to stick around, let us know.
Yep.
How you guys feeling about this?
So I gotta confess that part of the time that we were in breakout room, we were talking about what I was cooking for dinner and how I was looking forward to eating it. And that time has come, so I need to leave.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Get that.
If,
Thank you for
if
your
you are
time.
leaving, and you need a certificate of completion, you can
Yes.
email Anna Mowry, that's AMOWREY @aftct.org. She can get you that certification.
Perfect. Thank you
And
so much.
speaking of dinner,
Thank
Mike,
you.
we have-
Ann.
good.
Appreciate
We have
you.
Can
Good
you
luck.
please
Sorry.
Email
put that
somebody?
in the chat, please?
If you want a certification, you would have to email Anna, because normally Jen would be able to just send them out.
Can they
this
put
is-
that in the email to
Yeah,
those?
you
that
got it.
have-
I'm gonna put it in the chat right now.
That doesn't
Thank you
help.
very much. I have to go. It was a great. Sorry, I have to go.
That's okay.
Me too. Thank you very much.
There's also the link, which I'm going to attempt to put in the chat.
Oh, yes.
That's just a survey to let us know what you'd like to see in the future.
Is that being emailed?
Yes, we can send a follow-up email as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was
yeah.
asking. Dan, do we need, Flores, do we need this certificate? We need it to send to Katrina?
Yes, if she approved it prior.
Yeah, it was already in our list, so yeah.
Yes, you do.
Linda, it goes to Audra.
Or that, yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, so change then from
Yeah,
Holly
it's
to
Audra.
All right then, yeah, to Audra.
So that's what I'm asking. Can we just get an email?
I will talk to Anna tomorrow about sending a follow-up email with the link and any requests for certification information.
Okay,
So
thank you.
she'll put a request in that email. You just have to email her back and she'll get you that information.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
I have to go as well. Thank you for the space to have conversations with my peers that are out there. More of it is awesome idea. Just time to, how is it here? How is it there? What do you do when they're all really good things. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Carol.
night.
Thank you,
for
Carol.
the Wisdom in this group, and it was an amazing night. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
It was a good experience. It's interesting to see how different school districts work. Fortunately, our district has been known for extremely low turnovers. So everyone's been there, especially in the middle school level. We've all been there for quite a while. And we've developed a cohesiveness that makes us work better together. We do have different theme things that we do throughout the year in our school to bring everyone together during the school hours. One of them tends to be like a chili cook-off in February. And, people sign up, they bring in their best pot of brew that they can make, and, it gets judged, and it's a big party at lunchtime. So,
Nice.
but it's interesting to see how other school systems worked, and I've been in 3 other school systems myself. So, I'm finding that where I am now, I am extremely lucky.
Not so bad, huh?
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
I just want to say goodbye real quick. Bye.
Bye, Roman. Bye, Linda. See you soon.
And it's getting, we're becoming more racial. So it's nice because I make these little paper flip-flops, and my little biracial Spanish kids, I throw one on the desk and they know what it means and straighten right up. So, but it was a good conversation. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
So I have a question, Dan Squared.
Okay.
I was wondering, and I love stuff like this. It actually just warms my heart, and I loved the collaboration that was happening this evening, but it's not common throughout the state, the country, right?
Yeah.
We agree.
So my thought process was always something I talked to the people at my district about was training. Like, how does Dan Squared and the paraprofessionals get out there and maybe make that like a dynamic training? Like, so there are teachers and paraprofessionals where I love to help train paraprofessionals who are brand new, who have been there for years. There's techniques that you have, I have, and to apply them for the betterment of the child. How do we, as a cohesive team here, get that out to everybody? How can that be like the comedy show on the road, right? How they got started.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
does that? Because I use humor all the time. So that's something my children that I work with all know that Mrs. Wolfgram is the jokester. But
Yeah.
that's our way. That's foundational, right? That
Can
is
you wait a
something
few
that we apply
before you
to
start,
our
like, making
children, our very own. How do we bring this
Honey,
now going
opening
forward into
It's only gonna be
2021?
like 15 minutes.
How does that happen? How does that look?
Well, Dan and I have been brought into other places, schools have asked us to come in and be part of their PD. So we do have an in-person thing that's actually a little bit more entertaining and funny that so we do some skits and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So we have a little bit of fun with it because we know it's good to have a little fun. So we are available for those sorts of things of bringing the show on the road. Dan and I are also busy writing a book that hopefully will be done in the next several months that we hope to make available to schools all over the country, educators all over the country. And for for the ones that we're not there, we can't reach. So, and then who knows where that will go. But we are working on a book, and we have been brought in for PDs before to certain places, and we are available. I know the COVID thing has kind of made everything a lot more difficult. I'm a professional speaker on the side. Most of my in-person speeches for even the other speeches that I do solo have like dried up because of COVID, and pretty much everything's gone online, which is fine. We've accommodated or adapted to online, but we are available for in-person for somebody that wants to get the full effect of what we do.
Also, too, just to like further add to this, too, we also noticed too that there is a need for like different populations when it comes to like a collaboration, right? So like let me give an example. So this presentation that we did and we didn't quite finish, this was really geared towards those for the working folks, right? Because we noticed in our experience, especially in Britain, that there's been a lot of problems going on from the different grade levels, from different buildings, because all the buildings run the same based on different climate and culture. And also too, we're also in the colleges as well. Like recently last year, we actually did the same format for the University of Hartford for those immersion teachers, so that way they know what to look out for and not get caught in that same trap where they're having those power struggles. So basically, this presentation fits for all modes, for those who are entering the workforce as first-time paras or first-time teachers, or for those who are wanting to become that, so that way they can have a look at it. Also to help us out, if you feel that your school district or even your principal would want to hear us out, by all means, they can contact us, and then we can work something out where we can do it during the school day, during your work hours, or we can go there after school too, just to see, to basically meet your needs, because we can definitely tailor this to basically any type of PD they wanted when it comes to like communication, or when it comes to like how do we maximize time, or basically start having those type of discussions in terms of what is the underlying issue that's preventing us from going to the next step. So because that's a part of the workshop that we do offer.
So we differentiate.
Yeah.
We differentiate. And I'm thinking you probably have our contact information available to you. If not, reach out to AFT or Rosemary, would they have our contact information available to them?
They should, and if they don't, we can include that in the email that we're gonna send tomorrow with
Okay.
the follow-up, so I'll
Okay.
make a note,
Yeah.
That would
include
be
Dan Squared in contact.
And squared.
Yep.
I was calling them that in my head the entire time.
We
Or
got,
we could call them Dan to the second power.
I like the Dan
Power.
second power.
we got no problem talking to your HR department, principals, talent relations, or even your superintendent as well. Or
I
even
just,
or
no,
like,
I'm sorry.
yeah, or also too, if you feel that like as a local, like if your local really wants this for just the paras, we can do that too. So you got options in terms of how do you want to use this for your district, just for the local, just for the teachers local, and for the paras locals, you will have more control over that, right? Because there's like less hoops to jump versus doing like in district during there. So yeah, so just let us know like, well, what do you want to do, and then we can meet you halfway.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Can you quantify for me what the percentage of teachers versus paras was on this Zoom call? Do you know the answer to that?
Well, Rosemary probably might know that answer, but she might have to look it up. But in the past, when we've been on these particular ones, for
More
the AFT,
paras.
the paras have been more. Been a higher percentage of paras than teachers.
So I think that's pretty telling right there.
Exactly, we agree.
Because we reach out where the teachers, and I'm sorry, guys, I know you're teachers, but we reach out more where the teachers feel as though we have everything we need in our toolbox and we need no more.
Yeah.
So just
Mhm.
take that away with you, please.
Yes,
as
we've
you-
noticed
you
that
know.
before. We've noticed that before,
Yeah.
and yes, you're right. It is telling, and something needs to be done about it. And Dan and I are trying to get these conversations to be taking place.
Yes, yes, we are. And it's kind of hard too with the teachers, because with the teachers in general, they're like setting your wage, right? And also, another issue too when it comes to teachers is that in the teaching field, there's a larger pool, of them, right? And not every teacher has a para, or not every teacher has a second adult in the classroom, that therefore there's no reason for them to attend that because they don't have that. So usually in our experiences, teachers that actually have paras are those who are in the inclusion settings or those who are sped teachers. So for the most part, right? So it's not like in the middle school or high school where you have like the art teacher will have a pair with them, for the whole day, or like the tech ed teacher, or like the math teacher, because usually that totally depends on what subject they're teaching, and also whether or not if they have any type of sped students in their classroom, because usually the paras follow like the sped schedule. If they have students in inclusion, then they'll work out with inclusion students, based on where they are. So not everybody has access to their paras, and that's part of the reason why that we don't have enough teachers coming to this workshop because of that.
But we need more.
Yes, we do.
We
I
need
agree.
more teacher
I agree.
involvement.
Yes, we do.
No doubt.
And also for the administrators as well. This is not just for us. This is really meant for the principals too, because at the end of the day, like they have to know like what's going on in their buildings. And oftentimes from what we're hearing, if things are still like undecided, or things are still like lingering, they got to know this too, because at the end of the day, it's their school.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think most of you guys said, we heard it multiple times, when you get that top-down approach, when things trickle down from administration, it makes it easier. Makes it easier for these things. to
If you want to get to the Vince Lombardi mentality, it's got to start there.
Yeah, good point.
That's right. That's right. Great question. Anyone else have any questions
you.
for us? In terms of how this started, where we go, if you want us to basically go to your
Yeah.
school district, by all means.
Any more tips?
There's a lot of experience in this room, which I like. Okay, that means that, and also too, that this is not a new issue. This is happening everywhere, which means that,
Yeah, for all time.
and what's crazy too is that, Dan, like, I don't think no one else is like, I'm talking about this.
We have not come across a lot
I
of people
haven't-
talking about this.
I have never come
Oh,
across
yeah.
any books, literature, or any podcasts or TED Talk, people actually talking about these issues.
So that's why they have us, to get these conversations going and rolling throughout, Connecticut, rolling throughout New England, rolling throughout the country someday. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know we're rolling up on close to 7 o'clock now, which is about a half hour later than most of you were expecting. How's everybody doing with their time?
I'm good. I want to say thank you both for being such attentive listeners and for whatever you may take from this forward on our behalf and all that. And, wishing everyone a collaborative year. And thank you everyone for your input. It's always great to hear from people from other systems, from other positions, from other grade levels. All of that is beneficial.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you so much. You have yourself a great year now. Be
You
in
too.
touch.
Thank you.
Yep. Don't be a stranger now.
I won't.